Hello everyone. The level of complexity in questions regarding environment in UPSC prelims has been increasing over the years, especially considering the fact that it is a common entrance for Indian Forest Service as well. So in this video, we shall try to summarize all the prerequisite items that you should be knowing, uh, both from the static syllabus as well as from the current affairs perspective, which are very important conceptually. So beginning with forests, why are we actually trying to study them from the current utility point of view? First one, if you take a look at our INDCs, which we have declared at the Paris summit in 2015 for uh, our contribution towards safeguarding our climate, that is at the UNFCCC summit, one of them is that we will increase our carbon sinks. One of the way to do that is by increasing the area under forest. So we have an INDC of ensuring 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide. We already have a existing national level plan for the same thing. There are 8 missions for national action plan on climate change, and one of them is Green India mission, which exclusively deals with forests. So this is the first thing you have to know: what is NAPCC and what is Green India mission. Moving on, what is the definition of forest? This is a very controversial question, and a lot of aspirants might get confused. Where is it defined? Is it in the Indian Forest Act 1927? Is it in the Forest Conservation Act? No, neither of them. Actually, both of these acts do not specify the definition of forest, and Supreme Court had to intervene in the Godavarman judgment in 1996 and left it to the state government to come up with the definition of forest. So the bottom line is there is no uniform definition of a forest, and it varies from state to state. So Supreme Court interpreted the definition of forest in the dictionary meaning. It means that wherever there are significant amount of trees, the government can consider that to be a forest area. Now, according to government classification, as you can see in the Forest Survey of India report, State of Forests, that comes up every 2 years, what is this reserved forest, what is this protected forest, what is this unclassified forest, you have to know. And how does Forest Survey of India classify based on canopy density? What is this word canopy density? You have to know about that as well. Moving on, another important thing that you have to know is the constitutional dimension and the provisions in the constitution to support forest conservation. Forest as such, is it there in any list of the seventh schedule? If yes, what is that? You have to know this. What does the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act do to the issue of environment and forests? You have to know about this. Which directive principles of state policy talks about forest conservation? You have to know the article number. Which fundamental duty talks about the forest conservation and environmental conservation? You have to know about that as well. And the next thing that you have to know is about the history of forest conservation. You have to know that in 1864, the first time there was a creation of the Imperial Forest Department because of the natural wealth that we had. Also, in the comment section, post the comments who was the Governor General back then. Also, post if this question itself is right. Is it the Governor General after 1857? Please post in the comment section. Now, in 1878, wastelands were claimed by the British government, and they took up the sovereignty over these wastelands as well. Not really significant, you just have to know about this development. But it is the 1927 Act which created a hierarchy of protection for forests. It is where you will find for the first time reserved forests, protected forests, and village forests. What is the role of forest settlement officer? You have to know about this. How 1952 forest policy was just an extension of the 1927 Act. How the Forest Conservation Act of 1980 is much better than the forest policy of 1952. How the center became the central point in environmental conservation after the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. You have to know about this as well. And the 1988 National Forest Policy, what is the mandate and what is the purpose with which it was created? You have to know about the broad trends. You don't have to by heart everything verbatim, you just have to know the broad trends. So, what is this Forest Advisory Committee that was created after the 1980 Act and the 88 policy? It became even more prominent. Is it a statutory body? If yes, what law? Is it a body under any ministry? If yes, which ministry? What is the mandate of this Forest Advisory Committee? Is the advice given, like you can see, it is an advisory committee. Is this advice binding or not? If not, why it is not binding? If yes, why it is binding? You have to know about this. Also, a trivial fact, out of all the forest types in our country, tropical dry deciduous forest, they constitute the majority. How much? 41.87% of total forest, not forest, not Indian land. You have to remember this, of forest land. Also remember, where do we find evergreen forests? What are the different types of evergreen forests? What is the peculiarity about the forests that you'll find in Tamil Nadu, and the difference between these forests and the forests in Andaman as well as the Northeast? You just have to go through the maps. Also in 2014, 15, 16, a lot of questions were asked about this topic. You solve those questions and also look at the options. Another important thing that you have to note is the shola forest, because they're consistently in news. Where will you find them? What are the national parks and biosphere reserves found in the state of Kerala where this shola forests are found? And the next thing that you have to know is the 2002 Biodiversity Act, National Biodiversity Act. This act is based on which international uh, legislation or convention? You have to know about this, that is UNCBD. What are the protocols that led to the legislation of this Biodiversity Act? What is the Biodiversity Management Committee, which has for the first time legally mandated that local level bodies should also be involved in this conservation? Now, is this the first time that we spoke about local level conservation? Legally, this is the first time, but as a matter of principle, we talked about it even in the Joint Forest Management Committees of 1980s. What is this Joint Forest Management Committees? Even before that, we also talked about social forestry in the year 1976. What is this concept of social forestry? You have to know about it. And then in 2016, we talked about CAMPA. What is this CAMPA? What is the meaning of net present value? What is the recent news where this CAMPA funds were transferred to the states? What is this e-green watch? You have to know all about e-green watch as well. And finally, coming back to the steps taken by the government, we have the National Afforestation Program right from the year 2000. This is not a current affair item, but it is time and again in use. It focused upon increasing the quantity of trees. Then we have the one of the mission, the Green India mission, out of 8 missions of National Action Plan on Climate Change. It emphasizes on quality. How is this different from the National Afforestation Program? While this focuses on quantity by planting trees in wastelands, this focuses upon quality, that is canopy density. You have to know the difference between these two. Then we also have a scheme, Forest Fire Prevention and Management Scheme. The reason why we are talking about this is the Forest Survey of India 2019's State of Forest Report. Uh, this report talked about forest fires and the growing incidence of forest fires in Uttarakhand and in Northeast, especially Northeast forest fires is a big concern. Also, in the same report, if you take a look at the chapter 7 of this particular report, State of Forest, which comes every 2 years. So this came out in 2019. Even in 2020 and 2019, there were questions on the forest cover, the trend. Just solve those questions and remember the order again. So in this chapter 7, there is a concept of growing stock. What is the definition of this growing stock? Just go through. It is just a matter of 1 or 2 lines. Uh, then what is its relation with UN Read Plus? You will find the same thing in the same paragraph, in the same chapter, the introductory paragraph itself. It would not take more than 1 or 2 minutes. Just go through that as well. And then finally, the issues that are related to bamboo. Recently, that is like 2 or 3 years ago, we have changed the definition of bamboo um, by amending the 1927 Indian Forest Act. We deregulated it, and now it can be treated as a tree outside forest areas, and anybody can actually commercially cultivate bamboo. It is called green gold because of its potential to have a sustainable income. In this context, there was a recent controversial report about how, as a part of the National Forest Policy 1988, conservation is also balanced with increasing the productivity of state controlled forests. Because the reason why timber is so valuable is because it generates a lot of wealth for the forest communities as well. In the recent times, we are not focusing on sustainably capturing this timber production, and that is the reason why we are importing a lot of timber. So there was a scientific paper on this issue. You don't have to know the scientific paper and other details, you just have to know the status of the new draft law, National Forest Policy, which talked about increasing the productivity. So, keeping this in mind, we can also observe the trends of the government. So, the Khadi Village Industrial Commission, they came up with certain initiatives to promote the commercial activity in the bamboo sector. What is the initiative bold? National Bamboo Mission, what is its mandate and what is the role of National Skill Development Agency in this? Recently, in Tamil Nadu, there is a bamboo variety called Bhima bamboo. This is not genetically modified, but there is something very unique about this Bhima bamboo. All these topics were discussed actually in the channel Hindu Highlights, but since a lot of people were asking me to summarize everything that is important in a cumulative manner, I just tried to summarize all these points. It is not possible at this point of time, considering the fact that prelims is just 1 month away, to explain all these videos. So use this as a checklist, and it might help you so that you don't miss out on any topic. These are very specific, so I hope that this is going to help you. That's it for now. Thank you.